Samantha, a 26-year-old business communications graduate, returned to her parents' beige suburban Pittsburgh home after college, viewing it as a temporary stopgap. With a worn suitcase in hand, she arrived on a gloomy April afternoon, convincing herself she'd stay only 3 to 4 months, just long enough to save for a downtown apartment. In her mind, she envisioned a cozy space with large sunlit windows, a warm kitchen, and quiet evenings, sipping tea, free from the constraints of her childhood home. Her plan was clear: leverage her degree to secure a job, build savings, and launch an independent life. The familiarity of the house, though comforting, carried an undercurrent of obligation she hoped to escape. Samantha's optimism stemmed from her belief that this arrangement was short-term, a practical stepping stone rather than a permanent return. She clung to the idea that discipline and focus would soon grant her the freedom she craved. Yet, beneath her determination, the weight of family expectations loomed, hinting at challenges that would test her resolve. This temporary homecoming marked the start of a journey where her dreams of independence would clash with unforeseen familial demands, setting the stage for a transformative struggle. Samantha's swift success in landing a job marked a pivotal moment in her journey, brimming with hope and ambition as she stepped into the professional world. Within just 2 weeks of returning to her parents' beige house in suburban Pittsburgh, the 26-year-old business communications graduate received an offer from Madison & Cole, a fast-growing marketing firm in the heart of downtown. The job, while not offering a sky-high salary, provided a solid foundation with a respectable starting income and the enticing prospect of quarterly performance bonuses. This opportunity felt like a lifeline, a tangible step toward the financial independence Samantha craved. She envisioned herself saving enough within 3 to 4 months to secure a deposit for her dreamed-of apartment, a cozy space with large windows, a warm kitchen, and quiet evenings free from familial obligation. The speed of her job acquisition alleviated fears of a prolonged job hunt, a common struggle for many recent graduates, and filled her with a sense of accomplishment. Her degree from a small Pennsylvania college, earned through years of hard work, was now paying off, validating her efforts and fueling her optimism. That evening, Samantha sat at the dinner table with her parents, the aroma of her mother's tomato meatballs filling the air, as her father flipped through an old newspaper. Unable to contain her excitement, she announced her achievement with uncontainable joy. "I got the job at Madison & Cole, good salary, and there are quarterly bonuses too." The clinking of forks and knives halted, and the room fell silent. For a fleeting moment, Samantha basked in her triumph, believing her parents would share in her pride. The job wasn't just a paycheck, it was a bridge to her future, a means to escape the temporary confines of her childhood home and build a life on her terms. She imagined excelling at work, earning those bonuses, and accelerating her timeline to move out, perhaps even sooner than planned. The marketing firm's dynamic environment promised opportunities to showcase her skills, and Samantha was eager to dive into client campaigns, late-night strategy sessions, and the creative challenges that awaited. However, the silence at the dinner table hinted at an unspoken tension. Her mother's serious gaze and the question, "Are you planning to move out?" carried a weight Samantha hadn't anticipated. Her response, confirming her intent to save for a few months before renting her own place, met with a familiar parental exchange of glances, signaling that her victory might come with strings attached. Unbeknownst to her, this moment of professional triumph would soon be overshadowed by familial expectation. The job at Madison & Cole, while a beacon of hope, also made Samantha a target for financial contributions her parents would soon demand, viewing her income as a resource for the household, rather than a tool for her independence. Her excitement, so palpable that night, was tempered by the dawning realization that her success might not grant the freedom she envisioned, but instead entangle her further in family obligations. Despite these looming challenges, Samantha's early days at Madison & Cole were marked by determination. She woke early, contributed to utility bills, and maintained her focus on saving, convincing herself that her stay was temporary. The promise of quarterly bonuses kept her motivated, each potential payout a step closer to her apartment. Her work on client campaigns, though exhausting, was fulfilling, and she poured herself into proving her worth. Yet, the job that symbolized her path to independence would soon become a double-edged sword, as her family's reliance on her income grew, threatening to derail her carefully laid plans. Samantha's job success, while a testament to her resilience, set the stage for a struggle between personal ambition and familial duty, testing her resolve to carve out her own future. Samantha's return to her parents' beige house in suburban Pittsburgh was meant to be a brief, strategic pause, but it quickly spiraled into a web of financial pressures that tested her dreams of independence. Initially, she believed staying rent-free would allow her to save for her own apartment within 3 to 4 months, a plan buoyed by her new job at Madison and Cole. However, her parents, citing their own financial strains, soon revealed expectations that reshaped her reality. Her mother, limited to part-time work at the library due to chronic back pain, and her father, facing rumors of layoffs at the plant, delivered a sobering speech at the dinner table. "Samantha, you know your mother can only work part-time," her father began, his voice heavy, "and there are rumors about layoffs." Her mother added, "We really need your help with the household expenses. Staying here rent-free would be easier for your job too." The words, calm but cold, pierced Samantha's optimism, planting a seed of obligation that clashed with her longing for freedom. At first, Samantha acquiesced, nodding reluctantly as she forced a smile, convincing herself it was temporary. She began contributing to utility bills, buying groceries weekly, and covering the electric bill, believing these efforts would preserve her savings timeline. Yet, by the 4th month, the illusion of a rent-free arrangement shattered. One Friday evening, after a grueling day at work, Samantha found her mother waiting in the living room, a large envelope of bills on the table. "With your current salary, you can afford to contribute more," her mother said, her voice soft but chilling. Her father, clutching a water bill, chimed in, "Electricity, water, internet, everything's going up. We can't keep covering it all." The revelation stung. The initial promise of no rent was merely a lure, now replaced by demands for a fixed monthly contribution framed as sharing family responsibility. Samantha's attempts to protest, she was already paying significant expenses, were met with her mother's sad smile and dismissive words, "That's just a small part, Samantha." The pressure intensified as conversations shifted from casual dinners to relentless reminders of rising costs. Gas bills, roof repairs, and new expenses dominated discussions, with her mother's comments like, "This winter's really harsh," subtly pointing to Samantha's paycheck. The expectation to contribute grew heavier, each request laced with guilt-inducing phrases like "family is family." Samantha felt her dreams slipping, her savings stagnating as her income was siphoned into the household. One Saturday, her mother presented family health insurance papers, suggesting Samantha cover part of the premiums. "Health is everything," her mother said breezily, brushing off Samantha's lack of personal insurance with, "You're young and healthy. You'll be fine." The audacity of the request, coupled with its casual delivery, left Samantha reeling, her role morphing into the family's financial crutch. This relentless financial burden transformed Samantha's daily life. Dinners, once a space for connection, became battlegrounds of subtle manipulation, with every bite accompanied by hints of new costs. Her contributions, far from appreciated, were treated as baseline expectations, while her own goals, saving for her apartment, building a future, were sidelined. The phrase "family is family," echoed by her father, became a mantra that silenced her protests, binding her to a cycle of sacrifice. Samantha's heart sank with each new demand, her vision of independence fading under the weight of bills and guilt. The tiny flame of resistance flickered within her, but the mounting pressure threatened to extinguish it. As she lay in her childhood room, the howling wind outside mirrored her inner turmoil, signaling that her temporary stay was becoming a trap, one that demanded she surrender her dreams to her family's endless needs. Samantha's hope for a temporary stay at her parents' beige Pittsburgh home crumbled as she was gradually transformed into the family's financial lifeline, her dreams of independence suffocated by relentless demands. Initially, She believed contributing to utilities and groceries would preserve her savings for a downtown apartment, but her parents' expectations escalated, casting her as the household's primary provider. The shift began subtly during a dinner where she shared her job success at Madison and Cole. Her mother's cold question, "Are you planning to move out?" and her parents' familiar glance hinted at their reliance on her income. Citing her mother's part-time library job due to back pain and her father's potential layoffs, they pressed, "We really need your help with the household expenses." Samantha, swallowing her protests, agreed to stay longer, naively trusting the arrangement was temporary. The illusion of a rent-free stay dissolved by the fourth month. One exhausting Friday, her mother, with a large envelope of bills, declared, "With your current salary, you can afford to contribute more." Her father, holding a water bill, added, "Electricity, water, internet, everything's going up." Samantha, already covering groceries and the electric bill, felt betrayed as the no-rent promise unraveled. Her mother's sad smile and words, "Think of it as sharing the family responsibility," framed her contributions as a duty, not a choice. Samantha's grip tightened on her bag, her heart sinking as her savings goal receded. Every step toward financial independence was countered by new demands, each cloaked in guilt. Her parents' mantra, "Family is family," echoed by her father, silenced her objections, binding her to their needs. Dinner conversations morphed into a litany of expenses, gas bills, roof repairs, and rising costs. Her mother's casual remarks, like "This winter's really harsh," while holding the heating bill, were pointed pleas for more money. Samantha ate in silence, bitterness rising as her contributions were dismissed as insufficient. The pressure peaked when her mother suggested she help with family health insurance premiums, saying, "Health is everything," while ignoring Samantha's lack of personal coverage. "You're young and healthy. You'll be fine," her mother breezed, as if Samantha's sacrifices were natural. This audacity crystallized her role, a walking wallet, expected to bankroll the household without question. The relentless demands seeped into every facet of Samantha's life. Her evenings, once reserved for rest or planning her future, were consumed by utility payments and grocery runs. Her job at Madison and Cole, meant to fund her apartment, instead fueled her parents' expenses, leaving her savings stagnant. Each new bill felt like an invisible chain, pulling her back from freedom. Her mother's razor-sharp requests, disguised as concern, and her father's stern reminders of family duty eroded her resolve. Lying in her childhood room, the wind howling outside, Samantha felt trapped, her original plan, save for 3 months and move out, now fragile as smoke. The weight of unformed decisions pressed on her chest, her dream of a sunlit apartment, fading under the family's unyielding expectations. Yet, a flicker of resistance burned within her. The constant exploitation, bills piled on without gratitude, her needs ignored, stoked a growing awareness. Samantha realized that staying meant surrendering her future. Her parents' view of her as a resource, not a person with her own aspirations, became undeniable. The phrase "family is family" rang hollow, a tool to manipulate rather than unite. As she navigated this suffocating dynamic, Samantha's inner resolve strengthened. The tiny flame of defiance, though battered by guilt trips and sharp words, refused to die. It whispered that she deserved more, a life not defined by endless sacrifice, but by her own dreams. This realization, born from months of being the family's wallet, set the stage for her eventual rebellion against the chains that bound her. Samantha's fragile equilibrium in her parents' Pittsburgh home shattered when her sister Lauren and her family arrived, plunging Samantha into a secondary role that deepened her sense of invisibility. The unexpected arrival came on a cold October afternoon, the front door swinging open to reveal Lauren, 8 years older, her husband Craig, and their 2 young children, Ella and Mason. Their sudden presence, explained as a temporary stay due to their new house being under renovation, transformed the household's dynamics. Samantha, standing at the kitchen doorway with a glass of water, observed the scene unfold. Her mother's face lit up. Her father abandoned his sports broadcast to greet Craig, and the house buzzed with a vitality reserved for Lauren's presence. Samantha, tasked with fetching a glass for Craig without a glance from her mother, felt like a shadow moving through the room, her contributions to the household fading into the background. Lauren's arrival amplified the family's favoritism, casting Samantha as a mere backdrop to her sister's spotlight. Throughout dinner, conversations revolved around Lauren's new house, Ella's private school prospects, and their planned luxury Christmas vacation. "Has Ella learned to read yet?" her mother asked, eyes sparkling, while Lauren beamed about her daughter's progress and Mason's swimming lessons. Samantha, who had graduated with honors and shouldered significant household expenses, sat silently, her job at Madison and Cole unacknowledged. No one asked about her campaigns, the late nights meeting deadlines, or her efforts to build a life. Cutting her meatball into small pieces, she barely tasted the meal, the exclusion stinging as her parents gushed. "Our daughter really is the best," their pride reserved for Lauren. The marginalization deepened after dinner, when Lauren, sipping wine, casually remarked, "You're still living here." Her chuckle carried a condescending edge. Samantha's calm response, "I'm here to help them pay the bills," met with Lauren's flippant, "Lucky for them they have you," each word a needle in Samantha's chest. The comment crystallized her role, not a valued family member but a utility present to serve. That night, in her room, Samantha felt a cold numbness replace sadness. Lauren and Craig's laughter from the living room underscored her irrelevance. She realized she was never a choice in this house, only a backup, the unpaid help, a placeholder when Lauren's light dimmed. This truth, stark and unyielding, planted a seed of resolve. If she didn't save herself, no one would 2 weeks later. When Lauren and Craig temporarily moved in, the chaos intensified. Their Swift parked out front, children's shrieks filled the yard, and the house became a whirlwind of toys and noise. Samantha, dragging herself home after work, was greeted not with warmth, but with her mother's plea. "Samantha, thank goodness you're home. Ella and Mason are full of energy. Your father and I can't keep up." Before she could protest, Lauren assigned her to watch the kids for a few hours while they dined out, a request that stretched into a late-night ordeal. Samantha's attempts to voice her overwhelm were dismissed. Her father groaned about his hip. Her mother cited headaches, insisting only Samantha, young and strong, could handle the children. This unspoken agreement cemented her as the default babysitter, her job's demands and personal aspirations ignored. Lauren's presence turned Samantha's life into a cycle of work and servitude. The favoritism, coupled with her parents' blindness to her sacrifices, eroded her sense of self. The house, once a temporary refuge, became a stage where Lauren shone, and Samantha faded. Yet, this marginalization fueled a growing clarity. Lying in her room, listening to the family's laughter, Samantha knew staying meant surrendering her identity. The thought, "If I don't save myself, no one will," became a mantra, igniting a spark of defiance that would soon propel her toward freedom. Samantha's life in her parents' Pittsburgh home became an unrelenting cycle of exploitation when she was thrust into the role of unpaid babysitter for her sister, Lauren's children, Ella and Mason. The expectation began the moment Lauren, her husband Craig, and their 2 young children arrived, claiming a temporary stay due to house renovations. On that chaotic October afternoon, Samantha returned from a grueling day at Madison and Cole to find her mother pleading, "Samantha, thank goodness you're home. Ella and Mason are full of energy. Your father and I can't keep up." Before she could shed her coat, Lauren poked her head from the kitchen, assigning Samantha to watch the kids for a few hours while they went out. Mason crashed into her legs, hands sticky with chocolate, and Ella ran circles around the sofa, marker in hand. Samantha, swallowing her exhaustion, muttered agreement, convincing herself it was temporary. Yet, those few hours stretched into a late-night ordeal, with Samantha coaxing Mason to sleep and soothing Ella's tears until nearly midnight. This pattern solidified into an unspoken agreement. Samantha was the default caregiver, her parents, citing health issues, her father's aching hip, her mother's headaches, insisted only she, young and strong, could handle the children. Attempts to voice her overwhelm were dismissed. When she tried discussing her exhaustion, Her father groaned. My back was killing me all night. And her mother sighed. I had a headache all morning. Lauren, treating Samantha's presence as a given, waved lists of tasks: feed Mason, help Ella with preschool assignments, fold laundry, before heading out for date nights. One evening, as Samantha bounced a crying Mason on her hip, Lauren, applying lipstick, quipped, "This is good real-world experience for you," her words sharpening Samantha's sense of entrapment. The house, cluttered with toys and stained carpets, became a battlefield where Samantha's time and energy were commandeered. Weekends, once a chance for rest or socializing, dissolved into endless childcare. While friends enjoyed festivals or trips, Samantha juggled Mason's meals, Ella's coloring sessions, and cleaning before her parents' unannounced gatherings. Daring to request a weekend off elicited stunned disapproval. "You can't just think about yourself," her mother scolded, guilt heavy in her voice. "Lauren and Craig need time together. Who else will care for the kids?" Samantha stayed silent, her needs erased in a household where everyone else's priorities reigned. Lauren's casual assumptions, "You'll watch Ella and Mason, right?" via text cemented Samantha's role as free labor, her job's demands ignored. Each task, from mopping up Ella's spilled juice to scraping crayon off client contracts, drained her further, her dreams of independence fading under the weight of obligation. The babysitting burden was more than physical. It was a psychological shackle. Samantha's evenings, meant for unwinding or planning her future, were consumed by childcare, leaving her no space to breathe. Her parents' excuses, and Lauren's entitlement transformed her into a servant in her own home. One night, after a particularly grueling day, Lauren announced another outing, expecting Samantha to comply. Clenching her jaw, Samantha felt a voice within grow louder. It's time to change. The relentless exploitation, babysitting without consent, her sacrifices unacknowledged, fueled a brewing storm of resentment. Each cry from Mason, each demand from Lauren, pushed her closer to a breaking point. The realization that her life was being hijacked by others' needs sparked a fierce determination. Samantha knew she couldn't remain the family's unpaid nanny forever. This role, thrust upon her without choice, became the catalyst for her rebellion, a spark that would ignite her resolve to reclaim her time, her dreams, and her freedom from the suffocating demands of a family that saw her only as a means to their ends. Samantha's already strained existence in her parents' Pittsburgh home took a devastating turn when her sister Lauren and her husband Craig faced a financial crisis, leading to their permanent move into the house, and Samantha's displacement from her personal space. The news broke on a cold Tuesday evening as Samantha entered, scarf still wrapped around her neck. Lauren sat at the kitchen table, clutching her phone, her face tense, while Craig paced the living room. Her mother, voice choked, announced, "Craig just got notice. His company went bankrupt." Lauren's family had lost their main income, plunging them into instability. Samantha's stomach dropped as her mother outlined the plan. Lauren, Craig, and their children, Ella and Mason, would move in temporarily until they recovered. The 4-bedroom house, already cramped with Samantha's contributions stretched thin, now faced the chaos of 4 additional people. When Samantha asked about her room, her father cleared his throat, revealing the crushing decision: "We think you should give up your room. Ella and Mason need a safe space." Her mother quickly added, "You can move into the storage room, just for a little while, Samantha. You're young, you'll adjust." The storage room, a cramped space barely fitting a twin bed and desk, was piled with old Christmas decorations and newspapers. Samantha bit her lip, tasting blood, as the weight of being the family's perpetual sacrifice settled in. She wanted to scream, to demand why her needs were always discarded, but instead, she nodded stiffly, retreating upstairs. That weekend, she cleared the storage room, each box hauled away, numbing a part of her. Her bedroom, her sanctuary for years, was repainted in soft pastels, carpeted, and filled with toys for Ella and Mason. When Lauren and Craig officially moved in, the house became a chaotic beehive. Ella and Mason ran wild. Lauren directed furniture like a queen, and Craig fumbled with Mason's crib. Her parents reveled in the chaos. Her mother gushed over the kids, Her father brewed coffee for Craig, while Samantha vanished into her new room, struggling to assemble her flimsy bed, her sighs swallowed by the din. This displacement was more than physical. It was a profound erasure of Samantha's place in the family. The storage room, with its dim light and cluttered past, symbolized her relegated status, out of sight, her needs irrelevant. Lauren's financial crisis, while genuine, became another justification for exploiting Samantha. The move intensified her burdens. She was already the family's financial crutch, covering utilities and groceries, and now faced increased chaos and expectations. Her parents' swift decision to prioritize the children's comfort over her own underscored their view of her as a resource, not a person with her own aspirations. Lying in the storage room, listening to Ella's laughter and Craig's loud phone calls, Samantha felt a loneliness that filled every breath. Her sanctuary, once a space of dreams about a sunlit apartment, was gone, replaced by a stark reminder of her disposability. The financial crisis also deepened the household's reliance on Samantha. Lauren and Craig, now without income, contributed nothing, leaving Samantha to shoulder skyrocketing bills. Her mother's quick dismissal of her concerns, "You're young, you'll adjust," echoed the family's pattern of minimizing her sacrifices. This moment marked a turning point. Samantha's displacement from her room mirrored her broader displacement from her own life. The chaos of Lauren's family, coupled with her parents' complicity, fueled a growing resolve. The tiny flame of defiance, sparked by months of exploitation, burned brighter in that cramped room. Samantha knew that staying meant losing herself entirely. The loss of her room, a tangible theft of her space and identity, became the catalyst for her to envision a future where she, not her family's crises, defined her path. Samantha's role as the financial backbone of her parents' Pittsburgh household grew increasingly suffocating as Lauren and Craig's move-in caused household expenses to skyrocket, with the burden falling squarely on her shoulders. The four-bedroom house, already strained by her contributions to utilities and groceries, became a vortex of chaos with the addition of Lauren's family. The electric bill, a stark indicator of the new reality, nearly doubled due to the constant activity of two young children, Ella and Mason, and the carefree consumption by Lauren and Craig. Samantha, who had been covering the electric bill since her second month back, stared at the new figure in disbelief, rereading it 3 times. The water, internet and heating bills followed suit, each reflecting the unchecked usage of a now crowded home. Yet, Lauren and Craig, reeling from Craig's company bankruptcy and their subsequent loss of income, were deemed financially unstable by her parents, leaving Samantha to shoulder the escalating costs alone. Her parents, living on limited pensions, offered no relief. Their health complaints, back pain, headaches, used as excuses to avoid responsibility. The weight of these bills transformed Samantha's daily life into a relentless grind. Her paycheck from Madison and Cole, once a beacon for saving toward a downtown apartment, was now devoured by the household's demands. Dinners became frantic, with Samantha cutting Mason's food, mopping up Ella's spilled juice, and eating cold leftovers while mentally tallying the latest expenses. The financial strain was compounded by her parents' dismissal of her contributions. When she dared to address the issue one Thursday night, laying the electric bill on the table, her hands trembled as she said, "I can't keep covering everything by myself." Lauren, glancing up from her phone, frowned. "Samantha, bringing up money right now is really insensitive." Her mother's reproach followed, "You know Lauren and Craig are struggling. Family is supposed to support each other." Craig's muttered jab, "A future, does a single girl even need to save for?" felt like a slap, invalidating her dreams of independence. Samantha's plea for fairness, suggesting everyone share costs, was met with accusations of selfishness. Her mother's firm rebuke, "If you're not willing to help when the family's struggling, what kind of family member are you?" crushed any hope of equity. Lauren's sarcastic laugh, "Are you really going to nickel and dime your own family?" and her father's sigh, as if she were ungrateful, silenced her. The phrase "family is family" became a weapon, wielded to guilt her into compliance. Samantha stood, chair screeching, and retreated to the storage room, the bill clutched in her hand, vowing to handle her part, while inwardly seething at the injustice. The laughter and murmured comments behind her cut, like knives, reinforcing her isolation. This financial exploitation eroded Samantha's sense of self. Each bill, a tangible reminder of her family's entitlement, drained her savings and her spirit. Lying awake in the storage room, the sounds of Ella's laughter, Craig's phone calls, and her mother's reassurances to Lauren filled the air, amplifying her loneliness. The skyrocketing bills were not just numbers but chains, tethering her to a life she didn't choose. Her dream of a sunlit apartment faded as her income vanished into the household's bottomless needs. Yet this burden sparked a clarity. Staying meant sacrificing her future. The storm of resentment fueled by Lauren's indifference, her parents' manipulation, and the crushing weight of bills grew stronger. Samantha's resolve hardened in that cramped room, the flicker of defiance burning brighter. The relentless financial demands, coupled with her family's refusal to acknowledge her sacrifices, became the catalyst for her to plan an escape, a determination to reclaim her life from the suffocating grip of a family that saw her only as a means to their survival. Samantha's realization that she was being exploited by her family marked a turning point, igniting a fierce resolve to reclaim her life from the suffocating demands of her parents' Pittsburgh household. The relentless cycle of paying bills, babysitting Lauren's children, and sacrificing her personal space had worn her down, but it was the cumulative weight of being treated as a resource, never a person with her own dreams, that sparked her awakening. Lying in the cramped storage room, once her bedroom but now a symbol of her displacement, Samantha saw clearly her kindness was not valued but exploited. Her parents' guilt trips, Lauren's entitlement, and the constant dismissal of her needs revealed a harsh truth. She was the family's unpaid servant, expected to fund their lives while her own aspirations withered. The phrase "family is family," once a call to unity, now rang hollow, a manipulative tool to keep her tethered. This clarity, born from months of resentment, fueled a growing defiance, a tiny flame that refused to be extinguished despite the pressure to conform. The catalyst came with a text from her friend Rachel, inviting her on a ski trip to Blue Ridge Mountain. Staring at the message, Samantha felt torn between her ingrained sense of duty and a desperate need to break free. The fierce urge to breathe, to reclaim a life beyond bills and babysitting, overpowered her hesitation. She typed, "I'm in. Save me a spot." A small act of rebellion that felt monumental. When Lauren knocked, casually demanding Samantha watch Ella and Mason for another family event, Samantha's response was calm but unyielding. "Sorry. I won't be home this weekend. I'm going skiing with my friends." Lauren's sharp laugh and dismissive, "You're kidding," met a steely resolve. "I'm not kidding," Samantha said, standing taller. "I have a right to live my own life. I'm not your free babysitter anymore." The air froze, and the ensuing chaos, her mother's shrieks, her father's growls, Lauren's threat, "If you walk out, don't come back," only solidified her certainty. Her smile, the first truly free one in months, was her answer. This defiance was not impulsive, but the culmination of months of erosion. Each unpaid bill, each night spent soothing Mason, each dismissal of her exhaustion had built a storm within her. Lauren's casual assumption that Samantha's life, a desk job and living with parents, was inconsequential stung deeply. What could you possibly be so busy with? Lauren's words were a final straw, exposing the family's blindness to Samantha's sacrifices. In the storage room, under the dim light of an old lamp, she began searching for apartments, her resolve hardening. The ski trip was not just a getaway, but a declaration. She deserved a life of her own. Lauren's annoyed confusion, her parents' outrage, only sharpened Samantha's clarity. She was done being the family's crutch, done letting guilt dictate her choices. Samantha's awakening was a quiet revolution, rooted in the pain of being unseen. Packing her belongings, just clothes, her laptop and documents, she left behind the bitter memories and half-hearted gifts, her heart steady, despite the storm of her family's protests. Driving away from the house, her mother's wails, and Lauren's fury fading in the rearview, Samantha felt no regret, only liberation. Sleeping on Rachel's couch, surrounded by laughter, she breathed air untainted by resentment. Returning to collect her remaining things, she faced her family's cold disapproval, but stood firm. I'm here to pick up my things. I no longer live here. Her calm declaration, met with stunned silence, marked her emancipation. Samantha's defiance, born from recognizing her exploitation, set her on a path to freedom, where her dreams, not her family's demands, would shape her future. Samantha's departure from her parents' suffocating Pittsburgh home marked the culmination of her struggle for independence, as she broke free from exploitation to build a life defined by her own terms. The decision crystallized after a ski trip with friends, a defiant act that sparked her resolve to leave. Returning to the house, she faced her family's cold disapproval, her mother's pale face, her father's crossed arms, Lauren's tight-lipped glare, but stood firm. I'm here to pick up the rest of my things, she declared calmly. And starting today, I no longer live here. I'm not paying any more living expenses either. Her mother's desperate plea, families don't abandon each other, was met with Samantha's unyielding truth. Real families don't exploit each other. Packing a small suitcase with clothes, her laptop, books, and a favorite coat, she left behind bitter memories, ignoring her mother's wails and Lauren's fury. Driving to her friend Rachel's apartment, Samantha felt the weight lift, each mile a step toward freedom. Sleeping on Rachel's couch, surrounded by laughter, she breathed air untainted by resentment, a stark contrast to the storage room's loneliness. 3 days later, Samantha signed the lease for her first apartment, a small bright space, 15 minutes from work. Though imperfect, cracked walls, old floors, a humming heater, it was her kingdom of freedom. Laying fresh sheets, stacking books, and hanging a landscape photo, she stood overwhelmed with joy. Mornings began with sunlight streaming through her window, coffee in hand, and absolute peace. No crying children, no blaring TV, no endless demands. Her paycheck, no longer siphoned by household bills, covered rent, personal expenses, and savings, allowing small luxuries, a new book, dinner at an Italian restaurant, a beach trip. Samantha joined a yoga class, made new friends, and built a life unburdened by expectations. Weekends became moments of joy, road trips, coffee dates, reading under a lamp's glow, replacing the exhaustion of babysitting and cleaning. Her family's attempts to pull her back persisted. A Sunday night text from her mother read, "The family can't stay divided," followed by Lauren's guilt-laden, "The kids keep asking about you." Craig's message, "You should be grateful to the people who raised you," joined the flood. Samantha watched her phone light up, feeling no guilt, only calm. She blocked their numbers, her mother, father, Lauren, Craig, and severed social media ties, her hand trembling, but resolute. The act, though difficult, was like shedding heavy armor. Waking to a silent phone, she sipped coffee by her window, a smile spreading. At a bookstore, she bought a blue leather notebook and a fountain pen, writing, "My new chapter begins here." This marked her commitment to a life where she listened to herself, not others' demands. Samantha's new life grew stable, filled with small joys, a fragrant tea, a favorite song while cooking, park walks. She realized she didn't need her family's approval or permission to live as she wanted. Reflecting on years of overtime to pay bills and sacrificed weekends babysitting, she saw her kindness had only bred entitlement. In her notebook, she wrote, "I deserve to be loved, respected, and free," a promise to prioritize herself. She set boundaries, saying no without guilt, and invested in her career with soft skills and cooking classes. Reconnecting with old friends brought laughter and healing, unjudged conversations reviving her spirit. One spring afternoon in a cafe, Samantha felt no longing for her family's approval, only peace. Occasional messages came, but she smiled calmly, untethered from guilt. Her departure, a courageous leap from exploitation, gifted her a life full of love for herself first. Samantha's journey proved that true freedom comes from choosing one's own path, leaving behind even the most familiar burdens to embrace a future overflowing with possibility. Samantha's journey in the story reveals profound lessons about self-worth, boundaries, and the courage to prioritize personal freedom. The primary message is that true family love uplifts, and respects individual needs, not exploits them through guilt or obligation. Samantha's transformation from a dutiful daughter to an empowered woman underscores the importance of recognizing and rejecting toxic dynamics, even within family. Her story teaches that self-respect begins with setting boundaries and saying no to unreasonable demands, a lesson she learned by reclaiming her life from endless financial and emotional burdens. Additionally, it highlights that personal growth often requires leaving familiar but harmful environments to discover one's true potential. Samantha's new life, filled with peace and small joys, proves that choosing oneself is not selfish but essential for happiness. Her courage to walk away inspires others to evaluate their own situations and prioritize their well-being. If Samantha's story resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more inspiring tales, and drop a comment below to share your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you.